and gentlemen, welcome to day number 9 of the Custom Mail-In Tournament. Let's meet the first group we have for today, and that has Demon Preacher, Flurry Heart, Rob Maverick, and Nomo. Now this is actually quite unusual. Normally we have just 8 days, and then we go on to the Grand Finals, but this is actually gonna give us 2 more racers that will compete, causing the races in the Grand Finals to work a little bit differently, but we will cross that bridge to explain it when we get to it. So now in this group, I believe that is Rob Maverick, who has a large lead over everybody. They are heading towards the finish, albeit not very quickly, but as I sometimes say, a win is a win. 18.79, that is actually one of the much slower times we've seen, especially in recent memory. But we already have a non-finish, and it looks like that is Nomo. Now, I believe that might be based on one of the Batmobiles, but I could very well be wrong about that. Flurry Heart managed to grab a second place, Demon Preacher in third, and Nomo with a non-finish. Yeah, that vehicle is definitely a bit bulky in some ways, which may help or hinder them, but let's see how consistent they can be. Right now, Rob Maverick has the lead yet again, but this is definitely one of the slower groups we've seen in a long time. Because most groups we've seen finish at least close to 15 or 16 seconds. But Rob Maverick here finished above 18 seconds. In fact, he almost finished above 19 seconds there. And there we have another non-finish, Nomo and Demon Preacher this time. Nomo did get a lot closer to the finish in this race. Now, was he trying to stop Demon Preacher? No, it looked like Demon Preacher was actually trying to spin him around, but ultimately caused him to get blocked by his own move. So things are looking much, much better already for Rob Maverick and Flurry Heart. I'm loving the fluffy, cloud-like design on Flurry Heart. That is quite creative. Now for race number 3, Rob Maverick is in a very familiar position at this point. And it looks like Nomo is the closest one to him at this moment in time. Can he stay on his wheels? Can he finish at the very least? But for now, Rob Maverick is getting that 3rd consecutive win, finishing slightly quicker this time. Nomo is on the edge of finishing, and he could not quite do it. This has got to be messing with Nomo's head. As each race, he gets closer and closer to the finish, but still cannot quite get there. It looked very promising up until the last moment when they collided with the wall, spun around, and lost everything. But Rob Maverick is already progressing. Flurry Heart is looking very promising to join them. Let's see if Nomo can finish this time. They have been getting closer and closer every time. And considering how close they were in that 3rd race, in theory, they should be able to finish this time. Meanwhile, Fluffy Heart actually had the lead for just a moment, but Rob Maverick overtook them, and now actually got their lead to be bigger and bigger as they get closer to the finish. Can they get the sweep? It looks like they will. And they finished at least a little faster that time, and Nomo, as predicted, was at least able to finish this time. If you're not going to progress in the tournament, at least go out on a positive note, and that is exactly what Nomo did. But Rob Maverick and Flurry Heart will be the ones advancing to the finals. And 2 more from this second group will join them in just a moment, between Numbskull, Rick O'Shea, Alex Cook, and Elber Galarga. Or is it Galarga? I'm not entirely sure. But Numbskull has been a fan favorite and sometimes has a surprising exit or an underdog advance or something. But Numbskull has been rooted on by many a fan. And look how quickly he went around that turn. Is that going to help them? Looks like they might, because they are rocketing towards that finish line. Let's see how fast they were. 14.45. That is a lot closer to the times we've been getting used to. That is not the fastest time we've seen so far. The fastest time at this point is currently held by another racer by the name of Hawktois. Yes, it is a meme that a lot of people are probably sick of by this point, but that doesn't change the fact that they have destroyed the speed record time and time again. And by that, I mean they are the only person to even come relatively close to breaking 14 seconds. Now for race number 2, Numbskull is already taking off. And by the way, to Ricochet, if that was a play on words for the word ricochet, props to you. I am all for wordplay like this. But look how quickly Numbskull's pulling away. They've seen how they finished in previous tournaments, and I'm sure they want to improve, and that's exactly what they're doing. And they are among the fastest racers we've seen in this tournament so far, albeit not the fastest as of right now. But not too many people have even been able to get under 15 seconds. And Numbskull is among the small amount of people who have. And now they're just one race away from joining the others in the finals. And that man is named Galarga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did. Anyone who catches that reference, you are my best friends. Anyway now, Numbskull, once again, out in front, no competition from the others, and he just seems to get further and further away from the rest of the competition in all the best ways. Around the turn, down the hill, skids a little bit, quickly corrects themselves, gets another win, and that is one of their slower times, though that might have been just because of how fast they went down that hill. And as Hawktois demonstrated, if you're not careful when you're going that fast down that hill, you could easily go over the edge and not finish at all. Which in later races could be your ultimate downfall. But Numbskull and Elber are just one race away from progressing. And Ricochet has actually been getting better with each race. The only place they haven't finished in yet actually has been second and first, but they went from a non-finish to finishing in fourth to finishing in third. So let's see if they can finish in second or better. Although considering how far ahead Numbskull is, that's not going to be easy to do. In fact, it's going to be impossible now, as Numbskull has already finished with an incredible 14.39. So while Ricochet was not able to improve in this race, they still got better for the most part as each race happened. But what an amazing performance by Numbskull. They are not someone to be messed with, but they will be joined by Elber in today's finals, which will begin now. So Numbskull is the one to keep your eye on. Rob Maverick and Flurry Hart, while they are here in the finals, they have been putting up some of the slower times we've seen in a long time, while Numbskull has been putting up some of the faster ones. In fact, look at this. Even just around the first turn, no one else is even in sight. And Numbskull is heading towards that finish already, staying on the ground going down the hill, and they finish with an incredible 14.49. Meanwhile, Rob Maverick in third, Fluffy Hart in fourth. And of course, Elber in second. And Numbskull is a very popular racer in the Races and Fun community, and he is proving here exactly why they deserve to have that honor. Numbskull already has 4 wins under their belt. Could they actually do something Hawktois couldn't and join the very small group of undefeated racers. If they can do that, they would be the third one out of all the racers we've had in 9 days of racing. There have been at least 3 or 4 that I can think of that got one race short of being undefeated. But that one race changed everything. But now Numbskull is only 2 races away from pulling it off himself. If he can do that, then I'm sure he will put a big target on his back, set there by Hawk Twa. Meanwhile, Rob Maverick and Fluffy Heart, they are putting their best foot forward, but their times have been less than stellar, unfortunately. And look at this, just out the gate, Numbskull instantly leaves everyone far behind him. Elber is staying relatively close, all things considered. However, with how fast Numbskull has been, it's pretty much impossible to catch them unless they fly off the track or somehow come to a stop. But that is not the case for Numbskull. And they have been finishing under 15 seconds every time, I believe. For the longest time, it seemed like it would be difficult to do that, but a lot of racers recently have been managing to pull that off. And Numbskull is the latest example. And now Numbskull, despite not having the fastest time ever, he is 1 race away from doing something that Hawk Twa could not. That being an undefeated racer. And considering we have 9 groups, and this is the last one before the grand finals, I'm pretty sure, that means Numbskull would be the 3rd and final racer before the grand finals to be undefeated. Usually, outside of the drag races as of recent, we haven't had too many of these undefeated racers, but now we might have a 3rd on the way. Here comes Numbskull for the finish line, and they will do it. Putting up incredible times throughout, and they will be the 3rd and final racer approaching the grand finals to have not lost a single race yet. An amazing performance by Numbskull. He does have some competition ahead of him, but I'm sure that it'll be fun to watch. Meanwhile, valiant effort by Rob Maverick and Fluffy Heart, but it will be Elber and Numbskull filling up the final spots before the grand finals. Thank you all so much for watching. See you then.